will come back, and you do not want to be caught in that situation where you're out there with those with that water coming back in. You see the tree damage that's already beginning to occur across the region. There have already been some trees down. This has been going on for quite some time since we've had those tropical storm force winds since last night.
I believe that's more trees down.
And more trees down. Yeah. That looks like an Australian pine. And those things, we have a lot of Australian pines here in Southwest Florida. They're highly susceptible to wind
They're not
damage.
well suited. In fact, after Charlie, Sanibel removed all that they could from public lands because they're so costly. They snap.
They snap really easy. They're just not resistant to those strong winds. The live oaks, though, are. They tend to handle these hurricanes, as well as the royal palms and the different palms we have in the area. They tend to be a little bit better suited for those strong winds.
This is Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah, look at that. That's the last time I saw anything like this. Hurricane Danny back in 1997 hit the Mobile, Alabama area. Mobile Bay, all the water pulled out of the bay. People were walking out on Mobile Bay, catching crabs and things like that. So they were able to walk out on the bay, and that typically has, 5, 10, 30, 40 feet of water. And it's the same situation here where we're looking at the water being pulled out. So the temptation is like this. There's normally a ton of water here. I think I'm going to just walk out on it. You don't want to do that. But they're very, very fascinating with those strong northeast winds that continue to pull that water out. But like I said, once those winds shift direction, it's going to take all that water and push it back in.
I saw a video, and we're going to try in just a little bit here to get that to you so you can see it. But there was a video circulating on social media. A fire broke out in a structure on Key Largo. Someone is there to take video of it, which, really is not something that we advise doing. But you can see slowly how we're starting to see damage in Collier County. Trees are down. There's actually in Gray Oaks, if you're familiar with Collier County, a big gated community there. Trees are down in the Gray Oaks community as well. I mean, the name alone tells you there's a lot of oak trees in there. So we're starting to see this. And, if you have trees near your home, as we get into this, do you advise people not to be near windows, to go to the inner portion of their home?
I think in this situation, particularly in the extreme wind warning area, that's where you're going to have those really damaging winds. And when you start getting winds in the 80, 90 mile an hour range, over 100 miles an hour, you're going to start getting things. Hopefully, everything that was prone to just get picked up and lifted, like trash cans and things like that, were brought inside yesterday. But yeah, I think in that situation, definitely you would want to stay away from us. Hey, Trevor, you got something?
Everglades City, gust 90.
Okay, Everglades City. So we're getting those gusts now up to 90 in Everglades City, and we've seen that across Collier County as well. Those gusts up to 90, and then we're going to start to really get into those steady winds in the 90, 100 mile an hour range, maybe even getting up to around 120 in some areas with that eye wall as it pushes northward.
And just for a sec here, we have one of our reporters, Tui-Lan Nugent, who is in the Charlotte County Emergency Operations Center right now, and she's been speaking to some of the officials there about how they're bracing for what Derek is showing you live in our special coverage here. Tui-Lan?
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to find a window for you to give you the latest look outside here in Charlotte County, Punta Gorda. We have been getting this constant rain, this constant wind since yesterday, starting at around noon, and has just been going on and getting stronger ever since then. But this is one of the very few windows in this building that we have access to kind of peek outside. This building at this point is locked down. No one's allowed in, no one's allowed out, just for the safety of everyone. So we found you that window to give you the latest look out here, but a lot is going on. You could tell we've got one of the deputies here putting together water because we've been putting together a lot of supplies, making sure everyone has enough to drink and eat. Thank you so much here for all that you do. We're going to take you on a little tour back this way. So this normally is an area we are not allowed in, but fortunately they let us over this way. But coming back into the media room, this is where we have all been posted up for a while. And as you can see back here, we're calling it the Situation Room. This is where we've got leaders from every single emergency management organization in here, keeping track of this storm and making sure they get their public safety briefings and putting their resources everywhere they can. But earlier, the last time we heard, at noon, the crews were pulled from the roadways. This means all law enforcement, all emergency officials have been pulled from the roadways because it is just unsafe for them to be outside at this time. So unfortunately, if you are looking for some assistance, you might have to stick it out for just a little while. But we've got Katie, who has been so gracious and patient with us today. You're with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. Tell me a little bit about what this experience has been like for you, because you've been in here for a while.
Sure. Well, to describe it as someone that had to respond here instead of maybe bunkering down with our families, as many people were able to do, the first initial thing we have to do is make sure that the loved ones that we have are also safe. So once that's taken care of, we come here, and I think I can speak for everyone in the building that we are focused, and we have now switched from preparation to now the recovery and the safety messages. And that's what you're going to see coming out of this building now, is a lot of still preparation, but now instead of for the storm coming, we're preparing for what's going to happen afterwards.
And what are the first steps, after this storm finally passes and it's finally safe to get outside? What are we doing first?
So the first priority is clearing the roadways. And our emergency management director kind of explained that. If we can't get to the places that we need to clean up, we can't help these people. So first thing we're going to do, and it's already staged to happen, is make sure those roadways are clear. The second thing that we need to do is obviously get power back on. So many of our first responders and different emergency systems rely on power. So that'll be the next priority. And then, believe it or not, the third thing is actually to get the schools back open. The sooner we can get the kids that are in this community back to their sense of normalcy, it also relieves a lot of stress on the parents in our community, and it kind of starts the process of getting, the recovery and getting back to normal.
One of the most astounding things we heard earlier today was that this is the biggest restoration team that has been put together in United States history in order to get utilities back on. Can you talk about that?
Not with a lot of detail, but I can definitely give a lot of credit to what we've seen so far come out of Florida Power and Light. The crew that has come here and the representatives that have spoken to us, we have a lot of faith in what they're bringing here to our community.
Yeah, and as we heard earlier, I just want to mention the number there is staggering. 17,000 people, electricians, all people that can restore power have been brought to the area, and they're on standby from all across the country. So that's incredible. But what is it like having all of these agencies under one roof working together?
It's hectic. And it's really a testament to training. Everyone here has trained for this. It's something that we do quite frequently. This is obviously different than a tabletop exercise that we normally get involved in, but a lot of people in the room have gone through it before when we had Hurricane Charlie. And this is a different kind of storm, but the mental preparation is the same. And so everyone here is ready, and we're prepared to get back out there and start helping the community.
Yeah, and we have a lot of people in this building, more than usual. A lot of them very emotional. We talked to some people yesterday, and they said they were preparing to say goodbye to their homes for the very last time before they came here. What are the emotions like for everyone?
Yeah, it's definitely different for people that are here, obviously, because we're not out there, especially with our families. Some of our families are still here in town, some evacuated. So we are all going to leave here. And really our first priority is actually going back out and helping others in the community, sometimes before we even go back and check on our own property. So it's definitely emotional. A lot of us haven't actually thought about that yet. We're still in the mental state of serving everybody else.
And we heard from Chief Van Helden earlier. He got really emotional, talking about how proud he is of his team and how everyone has come together to make sure that we can get people out and get them to safety afterwards. What is that like to you, to see the management here and everyone kind of banding together for every single aspect of this?
It's an honor to watch them work. It's really neat when you see younger officers and firefighters and other service personnel who are even working so well with, maybe the more experienced ones that have been through a hurricane before, and you see the ones that haven't had that experience still attack this in the same kind of excitement and desire to get out there and serve. It's a really neat thing to watch, and it's an honor to be here and actually working with them as well.
Katie, thank you so much for your time. I know you've got a lot to do, and it's a busy time for you, so we'll let you go. But I do want to thank you so much, and we're going to take a peek right back in here again. And again, this is the emergency management team, and they are watching every single update. We can see on their big screen up there that they have times for when everything is coming out. So situation reports are due. They have briefings within their teams, and then when information changes and they can monitor it, they come out to the media room and tell us so that we can share all of that information with you. And a lot of that is public safety information. At this time, it's too late to get on the roadways, get to a shelter. You're going to have to hunker down yourselves at this point and band together with your neighbors. If you know somebody next door is home or hasn't evacuated, maybe try to be together, be there for each other. And one of the biggest concerns with the storm surge is that when it comes up higher, that's higher than some of the homes here. So a lot of people will try and get to their attics, the highest point in their home. But if that storm surge comes up you're trapped in your attic and you really have no way to get out until that water recedes, and that could be days until it recedes low enough for you to get out at this point. So, you know, we have these zones here, the red, the orange, those have been evacuated because of that potential storm surge. And what we were told by the Sheriff's Department, by EMS, is that if you are planning to get to your attic, bring something that you can break through the roof with. That is what you are going to be prepared for, because if that storm surge comes up, that's your only way out, is breaking through the roof. And if you have a flotation device, anything that can help you, a life jacket, bring that with you, because that is going to be so important if these waters rise. And again, we don't know exactly when that's coming, how high it'll be, or when it'll be here, but we're going to continue to monitor that. And the emergency management team here in Charlotte County going to continue to monitor that for you. And as soon as we learn anything, of course, we hand that information over to you. For now, reporting at the Charlotte County EOC, I'm Tweela Nugent, Fox 4 in your corner.
All right, thank you so much, Tweelon. Good information from Charlotte County. We also want to show you what's going on in Lee County right now. You're watching Special 4 in your corner coverage. Just want to remind you, make sure you've got that phone battery charged, as many phone batteries charged as possible. That way we can continue our coverage on fox4now.com, even if you lose power. And remember, your battery-powered radio, you can listen to us on any one of the local iHeart radio stations so that you can at least hear the information coming out of your local emergency operations center. 4 in your corner's Malcolm Johnson is live at the Lee County EOC right now with the story from there. Malcolm?
Hey, Patrick and Amy, what's going on, guys? That's first time reporting with you all. Hadn't been able to talk to you all in some time. Right now, we are inside the Lee County Emergency Operations Center. This is where we've been the better half of the day. We started our day out in downtown Fort Myers, right near the Fort Myers parking lot. It's right in the heart of downtown Fort Myers, across the street from the United States Post Office that we have there. And you had tons of cars that were inside of that parking lot. We actually saw one woman who was still inside of her vehicle, and she said she was going to wait it out. Her home was in Lehigh Acres. In fact, her and her boyfriend both decided to wait it out inside of that Fort Myers parking garage that's, again, right next to the post office. But as for this building, the Lee County Emergency Operations Center, this is where you have some 50 to 60 first responders, emergency management. You've got federal, state, and local. They are all here monitoring this storm as it is riding right through southwest Florida right now. It had been tracking at about 6 miles an hour, and now we are in the thick of it. Things will progressively get worse. Those hurricane-force winds projected to last through 11 p.m. tonight, and then following that, we'll have to deal with the tropical storm winds, and that will be through 5 a.m. on Monday morning. And so when those winds start to kick in, people might think that they can get out there in their cars, in their vehicles, but these emergency management officials want everyone to know out there that's not going to be a good time to get out there. Just because of the fact that the winds have subsided and they're tropical force winds doesn't mean that you can drive anywhere, because that's when that storm surge is going to start to kick in. And as for these roadways, many of these traffic lights will be down. We've already seen tons of power outages, more than 100,000 reported at this point, and management says that you can expect to see traffic lights do the exact same thing. So they want you to approach any four-way intersections as a four-way stop sign, as if you would have stop signs at each of those roadways there. So that's what they're anticipating, is for the stoplights to go out the same way it is for the thousands of people who are slowly but surely losing it across Lee County. They also say FPL is taking note of each of the individuals in the homes and the residences that are losing power, but they will not be able to help you out right now. They're not going to be able to reestablish your power until it's safe out there for them to get on the roadways. Same can be said for law enforcement. They're not going on any roadways right now either, because these conditions just aren't safe enough. That's why we're inside of a lobby reporting. We'd like to be showing you what's going on outside, but truth be told, it's not safe enough for us to do so. That's why you have Fort Myers Police Department. They are monitoring this doorway, making sure that eager journalists like us don't jump out there into harm's way, because believe it or not, you still had some journalists who still wanted to go outside. We decided a little while ago, we think we're going to stay here to follow the rest of our reports. So we're not allowed inside of that command center that they've got. You see those doors right there. We can't go past that. That's where they do all the important stuff that they need to do. They plan what they're going to do during the storm and what they'll do after the storm as well, because there's a lot of planning that has to be done when it comes to search and rescue, how they'll monitor the roadways as well. And they're also discussing how they're monitoring each of these shelters, these evacuation shelters around the county, making sure that they've got enough food for people, enough water for people, and maintaining safety for everyone that's inside. All of that gets done right here. Again, 14 shelters that we've got throughout the county. 3 of them are still open, but judging by the conditions, you don't want to be out there right now. It's these conditions that we're seeing right now that made this flag that is hanging in the lobby in this condition. This is from Hurricane Charlie. It's got on a plaque here during the early evening hours of Friday, August 13th, 2004. Hurricane Charlie made landfall along the coast of Lee County as a Category 4 hurricane. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that is what is hitting us right now, with wind speeds in excess of 145 miles an hour close to the eye wall. And I believe the eye wall is making its way towards Naples at this point. I know it was over Marco Island earlier today, but this flag was able to make it. It was flying over the emergency operations center that they had back in 2004. This building we're in is a little bit bigger than that one. We're thankful for that. They say that the media members were all really sitting on top of each other back then in 2004. We got a decent amount of space here today. So we're going to stay on top of this. Any information that's given to us by the emergency management officials, we'll be sure to let you guys know the absolute latest. And stay tuned with us when it comes to power outages and where those outages are happening. One other thing I do want to mention before we send it back, Pat and Amy, there had been people reaching out to hospitals to see if they could be used as shelters. They say no hospitals will be used as shelters. That's why they opened up these shelters, 14 of them, in fact, throughout the county. But you won't be able to bunker down inside of any hospitals. So it's important for people to know that. Tons of people have been calling. 30,000 reached out to United Way yesterday just to find out what they can and cannot do and where they can and cannot go when it comes to bunkering down for this storm. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you for that report, Malcolm Johnson. We'll, of course, be checking back with you in a little bit. So I just checked with Trevor and Derek just to kind of get an idea around the eye wall, what kind of wind speeds you will be looking at as Irma does now start to slowly make landfall. We're looking at roughly 4 o'clock. So, you know, just about an hour and 20 minutes now. And we're looking at sustained winds. That's constant wind speeds of about 120 miles an hour. So that puts this at a Category 3 storm. But Category 4 is at, I believe, 130. So it's not far off from that. These are strong winds, and gusts are going to be higher than that. And as Malcolm said, Lee County, Lee Health people are showing up to the hospital saying, hey, I want to come inside, or, oh, you know, my hip hurts, I want to come inside, trying to take shelter there. They're turning people away. At this point, it's too late. You know, they do send you from the hospital to these shelters in Lee County that are still available, Harns Marsh, Mirror Lakes, and Veterans Park. But like Derek said a few minutes ago, at this point, that opportunity has passed. It is dangerous to be out on the roadways. In fact, our emergency responders, you saw, Tweelon showed you, they're inside for the afternoon until and night until this passes, because it's too dangerous for them to be on the roads, and we do not want you out on the roads either. So this is the point where you need to just figure out the room you're going to be in, figure out your plan, and you need to button up and hunker down. And
just stay calm. I know that's easy for us to say, right, if you're right in the middle of which you're feeling the effects of the storm right now, but we want to make sure that you stay informed enough and that you just exhale. We're staying on the air with you. If you lose power, you can get us on fox4now.com on your phone. Any one of the iHeart radio stations, 95.3 OLZ, 100.1 Y100, 105.5 The Beat, and 107.1 Cat Country. If you're on the radio with us, we'll describe what we're seeing in some of these visual images. And we do want to update you, since we've just been talking about Lee County. We do have some power outages, another round, or at least a new number. About 34,000 LCEC, that's the Lee County Electric Cooperative customers, don't have power right now. But we definitely want to shift our attention to Collier County at this point, because that is the area of Southwest Florida that's feeling the strongest force right now from Hurricane Irma. For In Your Corner, Sam Sosa, live at the Collier County Emergency Operations Center right now. Sam?
Hey guys, we're right near the building right now. We don't want to get too far into this storm, but if you take a look behind me, you can see just how strong the winds are. And look at this, we're already seeing our first down tree over here by the EOC building. I know if you can zoom into that, but yeah, this tree's been completely uprooted. And actually, that's the second one we saw. Those tall, skinny ones that are just those are, but we actually saw one of those go down earlier as well. So yeah, you guys can see the situation. Everyone's going to have to go inside, but yeah, you can just see how strong the winds are, and you know, it did that already, and this is just the beginning. So we're definitely starting to see some damage, or actually taking down the hurricane flags now, because for safety. They put those up earlier. I don't know if we can get a shot of him bringing down the flag. Look. They're taking down the flags over here. That's the hurricane flag. It's going down. And we just lost it. It actually snapped right off, so we'll see how we get this down. But yeah, you guys can see also, you know, in the background, all these trees are really like being tossed around violently. You see a palm frond right there in the street. Like I said, situation's starting to get serious out here. At last we heard from emergency management, the storm was about 30 miles away from Marco, so it should be getting over here to Collier soon. They said the eye will be very close to Naples, so we're going to keep watching out for that and updating you guys. Meanwhile, just want to remind you, no one should be on the street right now. Emergency responders will not be on the street answering calls. So if you get into trouble out there, no one is going to come get you. So just hunker down. This is the time. You cannot be outside in this. You can't be driving on the roads with this. It's simply unsafe. You see that tree right there that's down. I'm sure that other debris and tree branches are possibly flying and could hit your car, cause you to get into an accident, or worse, something that like that can really kill you. So you guys really need to heed these warnings from officials who are saying don't be on the roads. Other than that, the emergency management over here also wants to remind people about generator safety. They had an incident where someone had a generator in a garage, and they want to remind people that that is not safe at all because of carbon monoxide poisoning. So if you're doing that, wait until after the storm to kick up your generators and do it outside safely. Of course, they're also saying after the storm passes, like let's say you see conditions like this start to dissipate, that does not mean it's over. Actually, the storm surge is coming after the storm, and that could be the most dangerous part of this whole situation. We have feet and feet of water in some areas in Collier County. You guys already know that there were mass evacuations here in the west and the south, and actually even a community right near us, so we'll possibly get some flooding too. I'm not sure if all these cars will sustain any damage, but it's going to be a very difficult situation to get out of if you are caught in one of those evacuation zones and you didn't evacuate, and then there's high waters flooding in your house. We're hearing that this water can get feet and feet high, up to 6 feet high, and more than that. So you guys want to be very cautious. The emergency manager, Dan Summers, he actually came and briefed us around 11, and he said that if I know many people are antsy about assessing damage and going home and seeing what happened to their home after this storm passes, possibly if they're in a shelter. He's saying don't do that. If you're in an evacuation zone, you might not want to go back until an all clear is given because of those high waters. Of course, the storm surge is the most dangerous part. Other than that, they also said the barrier islands, you definitely don't want to go over there if you live over there until an all clear is given, because it's going to be so dangerous over there. So as you guys can see, here's a last shot we'll probably get out here. We're getting really heavy gusts of wind. This tree was just the first casualty here, but I'm sure all these trees in the background are going to be next to go, especially those skinny ones that we've been seeing getting tossed back and forth by the wind all day pretty much. Now it's just getting serious. So I'm going to toss it back over to you guys. We're going to go inside and probably hunker down, be safe, and you know, we hope all of you guys are safe for the storm as well. Right now is the time. Get inside, hunker down, don't be on the roads. I'm live in Naples. Sam Sosa, Fox 4, in your corner.
All right, thank you so much, Sam, for that live report of what's going on in all these other parts of Southwest Florida. We know you have tons of questions, and one of the biggie questions, of course, is what's been happening in Collier County. That's why Sam lets you see for yourself just the conditions around the Emergency Operations Center. Once again, emergency management officials want to be really clear with you at this point in Southwest Florida. If you are in an area that feels decently safe, if you feel like you can shelter in place, that's definitely going to be your best bet, particularly particularly in the southern part of our viewing area right now. As Derek Beasley, our chief meteorologist, has been showing you, this strong impact from the storm is affecting Collier County most now. That is likely to shift over the next several hours here north. You can see the projections of the way the storm is going. For In Your Corner's Jillian Idle, another one of our team members who's out monitoring conditions both outside in Southwest Florida and what's happening inside, and she's got a live look at what she's seeing right now. Jillian?
Well, Patrick, we are at our Collier News Bureau right now. This is off of Immokalee Road and US 41. Now, conditions are worsening in the area, so they have moved us inside. But I do want to go ahead and for all those curious viewers out there wondering what conditions are looking like, we want to go ahead and show you just a look at what you can see. Now, wind gusts are increasing. Talking to our meteorologists, we understand that we right now are seeing about 70 to 90 miles per hour in those winds, and that they're just going to be increasing now for the next about 30 minutes to an hour, and that's when we really are going to be expecting the eye of Hurricane Irma to be making landfall near Collier County. That's according to our meteorologist. Now, I also want to go ahead and show you, obviously this is a water drain for the building that we're stationed in right now, but just to give you a little bit of perspective of what we are seeing, you can see just how much water is draining off of the roof right now and just how much water is falling down here outside of this building. You can also see palm fronds just scattered everywhere. We've been watching for the last several hours as the trees have been just moving so much, and you can just see all these palm fronds. Now, also, we've been experiencing, just like our viewers throughout the area, some issues too. We're currently running on a generator right now. We lost power earlier today, and then our backup generator kicked in. And of course, we have crews, those stationed all throughout Southwest Florida, monitoring this situation, bringing you the latest. I do want to go ahead and remind you what's very important is as the eye is approaching us and then after it passes us, officials are wanting people to know, although you may be curious, it's important that you still stay inside your homes because they're expecting lots of down power lines and also debris to be scattered, and they're going to want to clear that before you make your way outside. So that's just a reminder for those who are in the Collier County area. Of course, you're going to be curious, but just stay inside. Even though you may have lost power, you're also wanting to see how your neighbors are doing and those down the street from you, but it's important that you take all the precautions necessary to keep you safe and listen to officials. And we're of course going to be updating you here on air, but also online. You can stay with our mobile app. It's a free app in our mobile store. That's Fox 4 Now. You can download it and stay up to date. Also, our website, fox4now.com. But that's the latest we have here in Collier County. Jillian Idle, Fox 4 in your corner.
All right, thank you for that, Jillian. It's, you know, such good advice to not only, obviously, we're going to have water in the roads in Southwest Florida, particularly Collier County first, and down trees. We already see that happening. But those power lines are so dangerous. You cannot go near those because you don't know if they're alive, if they're hot. People have been killed going near them before. So as we do to start talking about eventually getting through this storm and you heading back out into your communities, you're going to want to be very, very careful. There are going to be a lot of dangerous things that you're going to come across for sure.
Let's give you a live look at Siesta Key right now. So this is Sarasota County as we continue our special 4 in your corner live coverage of Hurricane Irma right now. Remember, you can listen to us on your portable radio if you lose power. Any one of the iHeart radio stations, 95.3 OLZ, 100.1 Y100, 105.5 The Beat, and 107.1 Cat Country. Please make sure your phone remains charged up so you can continue to watch on fox4now.com. And as we've been showing you in some of these live images of Siesta Key in Sarasota County, very dark skies, a lot of white caps on the water. And you may think, as you see some of these early visual live images of the effects of the storm, okay, yeah, but I've seen this before, and we all have seen this before. What none of us have seen before in Southwest Florida is this dramatic storm surge potential that we're talking about, and these dramatic and dangerous sustained winds that are expected to come. So please just keep that in mind. We're showing you early images before the cameras break, before things get ripped off their hinges, while the reporters are still safe enough to be near the windows. A time will come, most definitely, when all of this gets pulled back and we're going to rely exclusively on radar and images that you might have shared from before when you went into your sheltering mode. So just keep that in mind. Don't take these early images lightly. Keep looking at what's happening on radar and this projected path which is really going to hit Southwest Florida.
And right now, you know, obviously our focus, we are here with you throughout this storm, is to get through the storm first. You know, we know this is going to be very scary for a lot of people, no matter where you are, whether you're listening to us or streaming us at a shelter, or perhaps you've decided to hunker down in your home. So we will be here with you, walking you through this. But as Derek has been saying for the past few days, this is not a storm that is going to quickly zip through Southwest Florida, and in a few hours we won't be talking about sustained winds of 120 mile hour anymore. This is a storm that for hours, several hours, I think we were saying 5, 6, maybe even 7 hours, we're going to have these winds, these sustained winds. And Derek was telling us last night too how frightening that sound can be if you've never been through it. And I do feel for a lot of our folks who are listening right now who, you know, we have a lot of transplants, and if this is your first hurricane, I do feel for you because, you know, I've been through them, as have, you know, both of you, and I'm, you know, wondering what this is going to be like myself.
I'm glad Marco and Chokoloskee and Everglades City have evacuated when you look at this image right now. And I think this is where the rubber meets the road in terms of evacuation orders. Emergency management officials don't mandate evacuations unless they absolutely feel they have to, Derek.
Yeah, and as you can see from the radar image there, that the northern eye wall that we've been talking about with those really, really strong winds, sustained in the triple digits there, that is now moving on shore. So Marco Island's in the midst of it. Chokoluskee's in the midst of it. Everglades City is, as well as Achapee. And you can see that's going to continue lifting northward towards Naples. The National Weather Service out of Miami just issuing an urgent statement saying that once this, we've been saying this, once the eye starts to lift northward and the winds come out of the other direction, that's when that big water rise is going to happen. It's going to happen very fast. So nobody needs to be down in those areas that we were showing that have that potential to see 10 to 15 feet of inundation of water as those winds out of the south and out of the west and southwest begin to push all that water up towards the coast. And the same thing in the Naples area as well. Once the circulation begins to lift north and the winds are now out of the east and southeast, when the storm lifts north of the area and the eye passes by, the winds are going to start coming out of the west and southwest. And that is when you're going to start to see the big water rise. And it's going to be a prolonged period of water rise because those winds are going to continue out of the west for quite some time and keep that water pushed up into the area.
Let me start. So how long, when you say a prolonged period, and I know, you know, it's impossible to give exact, but because this is such a foreign concept to many of us who haven't lived through it, how long would it take for that water to rise, build, and then suck out? What would that process be like?
Well, we're talking about, of course, initially when the eye lifts northward, you get those westerly winds, but we're going to have that west wind, or that west to southwest wind, for quite some time. We're looking at through tonight and even into tomorrow.
So 24 hours of water building?
That wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, it probably is going to come back a little bit, especially once the winds start to die down some. But the winds are still going to be on shore for quite some time after the storm lifts northward. So as you can see, they've been easterly really since yesterday, since Friday. And now they're going to be westerly for a couple of days. So as that wind continues to push towards the coastline, we're still going to get water rise, although we will start to see it come down some as the winds start to back off, and we do expect that to happen sometime tomorrow afternoon. But we're still going to be looking at high water in the area for at least a day or so.
So I think it's worth pointing out, obviously, the eye of the storm is approaching Marco Island and Collier County right now. Can you talk to folks about what that might be like? Because you're going to have this intense weather, and then there may be a period, depending on where your home is. Hopefully you're not there, but even as this moves closer to Fort Myers and Lee County, there'll be a period of time where things will calm down. Don't go outside.
Right, and if we can go ahead and do a measurement of the diameter of the eye from the back edge of the northern eye wall to the leading edge of the southern eye wall, if we can do a measurement of that to kind of give you an idea of how wide it is. If I were to guess, I would say that eye probably is about 15 to 20 nautical miles wide. Well, actually, I was a little over on my estimates there. So you see it's about 15 miles. So what that means is that's a pretty decent size eye. So with a northward motion about 12 miles an hour, think about it, it's going to be about an hour where things will calm down a little bit after that northern eye wall pushes through. So Marco Island is almost about to get into that calm period in between, right in the middle of the eye. And then we're going to start to see the second half pick up after that. And you see that's about 15 miles wide. You can see the drawing there, at least the projection of the measurement tool showing that the leading edge of the strong winds with the eye wall to the back edge getting into the eye is about 15 miles wide. So you're looking at about an hour for that to pass by. If the storm continues on its current motion north at 12, it'll likely pick up speed a little bit. I do think the storm's going to accelerate the farther north it goes as it gets caught up into that flow in the upper atmosphere. But as you can see, 15 miles. So plan on about an hour of that. Plan on an hour of the really nasty winds, a little bit of calm for about an hour. And then the second half is going to come in with another round of nasty winds from the other direction.
So just to kind of really drive this point home, let's say, you are in an area where you will get that hour of calm and you can see the sun or whatever it may look like. Is it instantaneous when it goes from being in that clear weather to when you get the other side of that eye wall? I mean, what I don't want is people to go outside and say, I'm going to get a picture and show what it's looking like in the eye. And then bam, within a second, you're in 120-mile-an-hour winds.
Well, for example, I remember experiencing Hurricane Ivan in Alabama back in 2004. And one of the things that was haunting about that particular eye passage, the eye went right over my location in Spanish Fort, Alabama.
You've been through it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yes. So when that happened, everything calmed down, and literally, if it was not advisable because you have power lines down, things like that, and it was at night too, so that made it even more difficult because you don't know what you're stepping on. Sure. But it was calm, and then you could hear this roaring in the distance. The roaring of the trees in the distance from the other side of the eye, because it was the most eerie thing, one of the most eerie things I've ever heard in my life, was this dead calm, but you could hear this roaring in the distance of the second half of the storm that was about to approach. So you knew it was coming. With Charlie, it was moving so quickly, and the eye was so small that you had that really big ramp up of winds. You had a calm for maybe about 5 minutes. It may have been 10 at the most. And then you had the second half come in. It was very quick with that particular storm. And this one's a lot slower and a lot bigger. So we're going to be dealing with a different situation here. But that's what we want to advise you. And not only that, I haven't looked at the satellite on this recently, but I imagine that the eye is kind of ragged and it's probably filled in with cloud cover. So it's not like you're going to just see a nice, bright, sunny day when this thing comes through. When these storms tend to start weakening, which they're doing now, which this one's doing, the eye will start to fill in with cloud cover. And as you can see there from the satellite, you remember before where you could really see the eye well defined? Now it looks ragged. And when you get that kind of situation, you're not going to really see a whole lot of sun. There may be some breaks in the clouds there, but the eye starts to cloud over when the storm is on a weakening trend, what we're seeing right now. And likely you're not going to be seeing anything pretty much. So for people who are in our Lee County and Charlotte County area, is it too soon to say specifically, do we have an actual track of where this eye specifically is going to be going over? I think it's a really good idea. We have a really good idea of where it's going. Now, if we could put the radar back on, and if you could draw an arrow going northward on the left side of the eye, and then an arrow on the right side of the eye pointing northward as well. So if we could get a drawing, basically, of showing where the core is going to track. So an arrow on the left side of the eye and then an arrow on the right side of the eye, basically pointing north in the direction that it's moving. It'll give you an idea of exactly where this storm is going to be headed. And you see clearly, there we go. So there's one side, and there you go. So as it moves northward, that core is where the strongest winds are going to be. So that does include Golden Gate. It includes Bonita Springs, Estero, San Carlos Park, Fort Myers, Lehigh Acres, Gateway, Buckingham, North Fort Myers, Tice, downtown Fort Myers, the Cape, Sanibel, Pine Island. All those areas are going to be dealing with these damaging winds as it moves northward within that core as it tracks northward along I-75. So we have a pretty good idea where the core of the strongest winds is going to track, and unfortunately it looks like it's going to be the very coastal areas of Collier, Lee, Charlotte, and then eventually up into Sarasota County and perhaps a portion of DeSoto County as well. But don't be misled. Just because the eye may not be going over exactly where you are, that, I mean, it really doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter because, you know, that's where the really nasty winds are. But let's just face the facts here. The entire storm is so huge that you're going to see strong winds. You potentially could get close to triple-digit wind gusts out in LaBelle or in Immokalee or places like that. So you don't necessarily have to be under the core. It's the core of the storm, right where the eye wall is where you're going to get the really sustained, strong triple-digit winds with perhaps some gusts up to around 120, maybe 130. I do think this thing is going to be weakening. And another thing I want to point out is that the earlier track had this thing going just a little bit offshore. So as a result of that, we were thinking that the intensity would stay up a little bit. with the storm, at least the core, staying mostly offshore. Now with this north movement, it's going to come inland. It's going to make landfall and then come inland, and likely as it tracks northward through southwest Florida into west central Florida, it's going to be staying over land. So we may be looking at a more rapid period of weakening with it staying over land is what we were thinking earlier, with it taking the track a little bit more offshore. Now, some of the storm is still going to be over the warm waters of the Gulf, but as you'll notice, the actual core, which is the most important part of the storm as far as maintaining its intensity, the core is actually going to be moving over land. And with the combination of the upper level shear, with the system coming in that's helping to turn it north, also the dry air being pulled in, the land interaction and the friction associated with that is going to help slow this thing down. So my hope is that once it moves inland, it's going to start winding down. So by the time it gets up to Fort Myers or it gets up to Port Charlotte and places north of that, Northport, we're going to start to see the winds come down a little bit more.
So the track that you have shown us here for the eye over Southwest Florida is over the heart of Southwest Florida.
Pretty much.
From the point of a population standpoint. That's where the most people live.
Absolutely.
Now, good Lord willing, most people who were in those mandatory evacuation zones, if not all, have gotten out of the way. So there might be a lot of houses there. I'm just praying there are no people in those ways. But is it safe to say that the eye of Hurricane Irma is coming onto land right now in southern Collier County? Is that happening as we speak?
It's just the way it looks now with the northern eye wall, and of course it's going to have to come all the way on shore for it to be called an official landfall.
Okay,
but at this point, that looks like it's going to happen. So unless this thing makes some kind of crazy west jog, which they do, they have a tendency to just kind of wobble around.
So even if a small portion of the eye is offshore, it's technically not a landfall?
Well, it has to, the entire core has to be on shore. Okay. The boat, we saw that with Harvey too. The actual eye, when the entire eye moves on shore, it technically was called landfall.
This thing loves the coast, though. It just seems like, 1 foot in and 1 foot out with the coast.
Yeah, like I said, they wobble around. They do these wobbles, and sometimes especially when they come in at a really odd angle, like we were thinking this would, it was going to really kind of throw off exactly where the landfall point was going to be. But within the last few hours, starting really this morning, instead of that northwest movement, it had more of a northern trajectory to it, which we started to increase our confidence that this thing was going to move into the Marco Island area and much of southwest Collier County.
This is a dramatic comparison, but for those who are listening to us on the radio, I doubt you have power, or watching us on your phone right now in Fox 4 Now on this stream. In this area, we're showing you right now Marco Island, Goodland, Old Grove, Everglades City. Those folks who, for whatever reason, might still be in this area for whatever reason or on the edge of it, are feeling under attack from Mother Nature.
Yes.
And we could think of you just for this moment, okay, just for the people who are in this urgent place right now, as sort of a criminal psychologist. You know what the attacker might do next. What information would you give them about how to keep themselves safe in their homes if, for whatever reason, God forbid, they're still there?
Well, I'll have to be honest with you. With the storm surge coming into this area that we're showing right now, if you're not out of that area, it's not looking good. I just have to be honest with you, because, one, you can't go anywhere now if you're in these areas because the winds are so bad. It's too dangerous to be outside. Then when the back edge of the eye comes in, or the wind starts shifting out of the other direction, you're going to get this massive amount of water that's going to be coming into this area. So we've been telling everybody, if you're in this area, particularly in southern Collier County, you need to be out of it. You need to be out of there.
And these were the first evacuations were called for days ago.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because we knew that this area was going to be highly prone to the surge that this thing was going to produce. And so Is it still at, I think Chuck Gillespie at one point, they were saying 23 feet. Is that still the case, or are we looking closer to 15? For the estimates that I've been seeing, 10 to 15 feet. 10 to 15 feet. So Tweelon Nugent, she's up at the EOC in Charlotte County. Just for a second, she had talked about having a plan if you are unfortunately made the decision to stay in one of these areas where, Derek, we've been saying this could be deadly, the storm surge. Absolutely. So, I don't know if you can give this kind of advice, but if you are listening to us, you probably don't have power, perhaps on the radio right now, and you're there and you're, fighting for your life, what do you do? We've talked about going into the attic, but at that point, if water comes into the attic, do you bring an axe with you and wait to cut through to the roof? Well, of course, the thing is you're dealing with these damaging winds, and really that's what we were hoping, is that people would heed our warnings and get out of this area. Really, the best thing you can do at this point is hope for the best and hope that these surge predictions do not end up panning out. the way that we're expecting, but I think it's pretty much inevitable the way the storm is going to evolve over the next few hours that we're going to see a massive amount of water being pushed in towards the southern portions of Collier County in these areas that are highly storm surge prone. And if you were seeing these maps that we were showing the past several days, I mean, it was pretty much clear. It was bright red showing that that was the area that was going to see the most water coming in. So we're here with you. We don't want you to be afraid.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want you to be afraid, but it's going to be rough here for the next few hours. It's going to be rough, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah. We just want to remind you, if you're listening to us on the radio, you're listening to Storm Shield 4's Chief Meteorologist Derek Beasley, Amy Wegman, Patrick Nolan. We are with you through the duration of this. Again, radio is the best option, particularly if you are in Collier County right now, and you can get us on 95.3 OLZ. 100.1 Y100, 105.5 The Beat, 107.1 Cat Country. We're also live streaming on our phone. We want to be able to continue to feed this information to you and make sure that you know what you're dealing with. At this point, it's going to be the most useful thing. We've been hearing from some of our viewers, and one of them reaching out to us was heartbreaking, but this person sending us an email and saying that they have an elderly relative who just called from Fort Myers, and that she's on Loma Linda Street in Fort Myers, and she said there are 4 elderly people in their 80s in this area, and this is an area that is in the evacuation zone, and they were planning on climbing onto the roof with a life raft. Is there anyone with the fire department at this point who can get there? You know, and I've got the phone. They said, we've got the phone numbers. Can you please call them? You know, 239-314. 9159, or the person who sent the email said, call me right now, 301-704-2020. And what we are telling people is what emergency managers are telling us right now, and that is they don't feel safe letting their own crews go into these conditions at this point. Now, we're talking about a Lee County situation from that viewer email, but if you're in Collier County right now, I'm praying that you're watching this from a shelter or perhaps another part of the country on fox4now.com. Derek, what would you say to people who have some beautiful homes, in some cases some awesome Florida cracker shacks that have been in the families for years, in these areas where we are seeing the worst of Irma come ashore? Are they going to come back to a home? Are they going to come back to anything?
There's a good chance that they won't. If this water comes in the way that we're expecting it, that's the kind of situation that we're going to be facing here. And we're already starting to now get some reports of hurricane force winds in Lee County. Just got a report from the Southwest Florida International Airport of a wind gust of 80 miles an hour. So we're now starting to get 80 of these hurricane force wind gusts are now starting to push into Lee County. Cape Coral, wind gusts at about 65 miles per hour. So we're getting close to hurricane force in the Cape now. And we're going to gradually see this, instead of gusts, becoming more sustained hurricane force winds.
And we just should mention, don't get too concentrated, and it's hard not to because the eye is where the power is. It's all emanating from there. The eye is about 60 miles south, roughly more or less, than Southwest Florida International Airport. So even though we're seeing the most intensity, the most dramatic winds right now in this area of Southern County, which I pray is uninhabited across the board right now, this storm is dangerous no matter where you are in Southwest Florida. That's not a freak-out mode. It's just something to go, oh, well, Collier County's really getting it. We're still cool. You're not cool. You have time to shelter in place right now and make decisions that are best for you calmly while we're feeding you the info of what's coming your way.
Well, it looks like the leading edge of the eye wall now, just based on the latest calculations, about 32 miles south of central Lee County. So really, basically drawing it from the airport or the gateway area southward to the north edge of the eye wall where the really heavy winds are, about 30 miles or so. Okay. So we're looking at another couple of hours, 3 hours before we start to see those really heavy winds start pushing into Lee County. Immokalee also reporting wind gusts. The anemometer, the instrument that we used to measure the wind, failed. I just got the report from Trevor that the anemometer actually failed out the airport. It's no longer measuring wind gusts.
So we obviously are going to be focusing on Southwest Florida because that's where we are, and we want to be with you through this storm. But it's important to remember that, as Derek has been saying, this is going to affect the entire state of Florida. And just because the eye is on our coast, Miami's feeling a lot of effects as well. We want to get to some video of a crane actually in Miami falling over. And we have some video of when the crane fell. So you can see, obviously, a lot of high rises there. Look in the middle of your screen, and you can kind of see it just fallen on over there as they are experiencing wind gusts. And so what are the winds kind of like over in Miami right now? Derek, do you have that information?
Well, they've been getting some gusts at the 80, 90-mile-an-hour range over there, and that's what we were talking about, is how big the wind field is on this storm. And the wind field actually has been expanding. It's now extending outwards of 80 miles from the center. Very typical of a storm that is approaching coast and beginning to wind down a little bit, so the wind field will expand. And we've been seeing those gusts over there, over on the East Coast. So
this is a live video.
Yeah, see, that's how it looks there. And to give you an idea, if the storm had come over on the East Coast, Southwest Florida would have been seeing this. So we weren't getting away from this.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what the whole state is going to deal with this all the way up to the Panhandle here through tomorrow morning.
And I know that one of the things the mayor of Miami-Dade had actually expressed was concern about those huge cranes. They're too large to move or really adjust in any way. They're kind of mountains, metal mountains of their own. There's very little that can be done to manipulate them, and they felt at the point that they were under the watches and warnings that they needed to leave them in place, and then they had to tell all these people in these high-rises, and by the way, if you're listening to us on the radio, we're just giving a live look of downtown Miami right now, but all these huge high-rises, a lot of which are just clogging the downtown area at this point of its development, to get away from anything that was near a crane. You know how many people would have to get out of that way?
No kidding, yeah. And that's just seeing that kind of crumple over just gives you an idea of the power that this storm is bringing. I do want to bring something up that was just issued by the National Weather Service in Miami, flash flood emergency now for Collier County. And this is a particularly dangerous situation due to the fact that we're going to be seeing life-threatening storm surge to begin shortly in coastal Collier County. So this is what we call a PDS flash flood watch, where there's a particularly dangerous situation, a flash flood emergency for Collier County as a result of the storm surge, and that was just issued at 3:12. So the National Weather Service Miami getting ahead of the game here and just letting you know that with the circulation now passing northward and those winds shifting direction, you're going to start seeing that water rise quickly in the coastal areas of Collier County.
All right, so we do want to just check quickly with one of our reporters. Obviously, Derek's going to be right here with us and with you throughout this storm, kind of telling us where things stand and who's next to be battered by Irma. Malcolm Johnson is at the Lee County Emergency Operations Center right now. And, you know, as far as emergency operations go, right now we are with you. We're hoping to help you get through this storm. We want to hold your hand because this is a scary scenario. But our emergency operations officials, they're already looking at what's next here, clearing the roads, you know, getting the power back on. And we heard Charlotte County EOC talk about getting kids back at school because you got to get a sense of normalcy going again. So let's go see if we can check in with Malcolm at the Lee County Emergency Operations Center and see what things are looking like there right now. Hey, Malcolm.
Hey, Amy, yeah, you took a lot of the words right out of my mouth. I mean, you said it. What they are doing is trying to plan for what they will do as soon as this storm passes us. Now, we don't have much time in terms of putting preparations together. They've been working on this for several days now, but not until 11 p.m. will these hurricane force winds subside, and then all the way through 5 a.m. tomorrow will we be dealing with tropical storm force winds. So when you mention the plan after, it's not just clearing out the roads, but it's also the search and rescue plan. And what they're also doing is planning for and continuing to work on what they've got in place in regards to the shelters that are all throughout Lee County right now in terms of dispersing enough food and enough water for everyone that's there. Some 30,000 people have made their way to these shelters, these 14 throughout the county. We're looking at upwards of 1,400 pets that were taken to these shelters. As we know, so many people feel incredibly close to their dogs, their cats, whatever it is that they may have. Initially, a lot of these shelters weren't pet friendly, but as the days went on, starting around Friday and then going into Saturday, just about every shelter became pet-friendly over time, and Germain Arena has tons of pets throughout. You guys said it. We're inside of the Lee County Emergency Operations Center. Not too many people here in terms of the lobby, but this building, believe it or not, is packed, guys. What you have is between 50 to 60 first responders. They are state responders, federal and local. You've got them from all across the country. And what they're doing is getting ready for what they'll have to deal with the second that this storm passes. I want to show you as much of this building as I can to give you an idea as to what things are like in here. This is actually a flag that was left from Hurricane Charlie. It was hanging outside of the last Lee County Emergency Operations Center. This is back from 2004. Hurricane Charlie, guys. And so We're going to send it back to you all. Maybe the next time we'll show you more of this building. There's a press conference coming up in a little bit as well. But what these folks want to do, Patrick and Amy, is make sure that everybody is prepared for this storm as much as possible. We'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Malcolm. We want to reiterate this because this is the most urgent information. Listen, anywhere you're living in Southwest Florida, if you're visiting right now, it's going to feel urgent to you when you're looking at the weather and you're hearing about what's happening outside wherever you are right now. But a flash flood emergency has been declared for Southwest Collier County. I want to repeat it because this could be life-saving information for you, or if for whatever reason you know of somebody in southwestern Collier County. A flash flood emergency, that means life-threatening flooding because of the storm surge from this actual hurricane that's now hitting in southwest Florida. And keep in mind that this stays in effect at least until 6 o'clock, but you don't want anybody near the coast. If you do, for some reason, find yourself in that area and you can still hear us by radio, by your phone, whichever way, it's time now for you to find anything that's going to float, any kind of life jacket, a kayak, a flotation device. That sounds not like killer advice when you're looking at a potentially deadly situation, but whatever you can do to keep yourself safe, keep in mind a flash flood emergency declared in southwestern Collier County.
All right, so we are going to get to our Jillian Idol in Naples in just a second, but first, Derek wants to give us an update on something.
Okay, so the center of Irma is over Marco Island right now. They just reported a 130-mile-an-hour wind gust at Marco Island, and we're also, this was at the weather station at the Marco Island Police Department. We're also starting to get some more reports now out of parts of Lee County and the northern sections of Collier County. There was also a report of a wind gust at the Children's Museum in Naples at about 2:01. We had a report.
Oh my gosh!
No, not 2:01. No, at 2:01.
Okay.
At 2:01. No, it's not that strong. 2:01 p.m. Did I say 201?
No.
2:01
p.m.
of 87 miles per hour. So we're starting to get those winds up there close to 100 miles per hour in that area. That, like I said, that 130-mile-an-hour wind gust in the Marco Island area.
All right, so we want to go down to Collier County now because this is where, the storm is making, we won't call it landfall, but where the eye is coming onshore right now. Our Jillian Idol is in Naples right now, and we want to go check in with her for the latest. Jillian?
Well, Amy, Patrick, that's right now. All eyes are on Collier County as Hurricane Irma makes its approach towards southwest Florida. I'm here with Tony Sadiku, and we've been monitoring conditions here for the past 24 hours or so, and it seems like things are starting to pick up here in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. We're closely watching that eye as the north part of it begins to basically make landfall in Marco Island, and we're next. Marco Island about 20 or so miles south of us, and we're quickly starting to see the winds pick up. We do have that extreme wind warning that was issued by the National Weather Service, and that is because 115-mile-an-hour winds and gusts.
And we were even outside earlier, and it was getting to be so bad out there that they moved us inside in our Collier Bureau. And again,
it's absolutely too dangerous right now to be outside.
So let's show, though, I mean, we do have a good look from where we're stationed right now inside. We're on the second floor of the building we're stationed at here in Collier County. We're off of Immokalee Road in US 41. You can just see palm fronds on the ground. You can also see water we're getting hit with right now. But Tony, if you want to go ahead and talk further about those conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. Water, just one of the concerns here, one of the threats rather. That flash flood emergency that Derek was talking about, that is certainly a big problem here, as we've seen at least 6 to 8 inches of rain in some parts of Collier County. And of course, we're not even done with the rain yet. The other big threat is the winds. They've started to pick up, and we're starting to notice those wind gusts in the neighborhood of 70 to 90 miles per hour. In fact, I couldn't even see what the latest wind gust report was from the Naples airport, just because it probably wasn't operational because the winds are too strong. But as you take a look outside the window here, you can certainly see the conditions are picking up, and we expect these winds to be even stronger as we approach the core of the storm here over the next 30 minutes or so. So the track is north 12, And so it should put it, at least the northern part of that eye wall, close to us here in Naples over the next half hour to 45 minutes. And we will be watching for that. Of course, the storm surge threat, that's what's going to be after we watch that eye completely roll on through. But in the meantime...
Yeah, and I mean, we do have a really good view here from where we're stationed. So if we want to go ahead and our photog Yvonne, if she wants to go ahead and show us some other views we have here at our bureau in Collier County. And for those who are watching with us or who are living in Southwest Florida, or maybe they're at a shelter right now, what is it you want them to know, and what can they expect here in the next hour or so?
They've definitely got a shelter in place and stay indoors. This is certainly no time to be outside. I mean, you can see how fast the winds are blowing and bending these trees. Of course, these palm trees are meant to withstand some of these stronger winds, but you can see this tree in particular, it's almost bending in half in the way that it's looking, especially off as we continue to watch these very strong easterly and northeasterly winds here, even in Naples. So that's going to be the big thing. If you're watching in Naples, I know a lot of folks have reported power outages. Maybe you're watching online on fox4now.com or even hearing us streaming on the radio. You do want to note that this is certainly the time to get into that safe place, that shelter in place that we've been talking about in the most interior part of your home, away from windows, because we've been talking about the potential, of course, for debris. We've seen debris on the floor.
Yes, we already have. And I was also going to ask, I know a lot of viewers curious about storm surge, and also we've had reports and emails, and I know Patrick was just talking about it on air, about a woman, a couple elderly folks who are hunkered down together in a home, thinking about even going to